Welcome back to Fight Talk MMA. Today we're looking at everything from a legendary fighter who wants to run for president while still throwing down in the cage, to a rising star calling out one of the most controversial names in MMA. But before we dive into the video, please remember that every like, comment, and subscription helps us continue bringing you the stories you love and supports our channel immensely. Conor McGregor has hinted that his MMA return might have to wait as he considers a political run for the presidency of Ireland. Interestingly, he insists he would continue fighting in the UFC while holding office if elected. He points to his country's current struggles as a motivating factor, feeling it's his duty to serve Ireland beyond just the Octagon. Known for breaking pay-per-view records, Conor says any comeback must be appropriately monumental to match the hype surrounding him. He mentions there was an opportunity to fight in Alcatraz, but it didn't match his worth. Above all, Conor stresses that greatness does not rush, and he wants to ensure he returns under the best possible circumstances. His vision of walking into the cage as both president and fighter showcases the ambition and showmanship that fans have come to expect. Dean Thomas believes Leon Edwards showed a lack of willingness to stay in the fight during his fourth-round submission loss to Sean Brady at UFC London. According to Dean, the turning point came in the third round when Leon shot for a takedown and ended up getting reversed. That moment convinced Dean and Sean Brady's team that Leon no longer wanted to engage on the feet. Despite emphasizing that Leon remains technically gifted, Dean compares him to elite fighters like Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier, stating that those men would fight you in a parking lot. He implies Leon is more of an athlete and performer than a bare-bones fighter. Dean also notes that Leon's coaches appear to recognize this missing grit, urging him not to let himself get bullied. Ultimately, Dean holds that Leon's talent is immense, but is sometimes overshadowed by a lack of raw fighting spirit. In a recent Q&A, Ian Gary revealed his admiration for up-and-coming talent Mauricio Ruffy, describing his style as reminiscent of a prime Conor McGregor. He notes that Mauricio has fluid movement and next-level striking, which makes him a standout to watch. Ian also took the opportunity to address Colby Covington, accusing him of hiding from a potential clash. He likens Colby to a child avoiding scary movies, insisting that once Colby saw what Ian could do, there was no desire to step into the cage together. Despite these strong words, Ian maintains he just wants the fights fans are excited about. His confidence, paired with his undefeated mentality, continues to draw comparisons to the swagger of past Irish champions. It's clear Ian aims to be a major threat in his division by calling out big names and showcasing a flashy but effective fighting style. Mauricio Ruffy didn't stay quiet after hearing Ian Gary's praise. He publicly expressed his excitement at being admired by someone he studies and respects. For Mauricio, it's a dream come true to know a rising star in the UFC sees promise in his style and technique. He mentions hoping they can train together in the future, signaling a respectful camaraderie that could benefit both fighters' growth. Though Mauricio has his sights set on his own upcoming battles, he remains open to collaborating with Ian if the opportunity arises. This mutual recognition highlights how newer fighters are making waves and influencing one another. In a sport often filled with trash talk, it's refreshing to see genuine respect. Mauricio credits his team and training in Sao Paulo for his fluid movements and footwork, traits that caught Ian's eye. Brandon Moreno is gearing up for a showdown with Steve Erceg, who comes into this bout on a difficult run. Brandon notes that setbacks can make fighters even more dangerous, as they become hungry to reclaim their winning ways and chase future title opportunities. In analyzing Steve, Brandon respects his boxing range, ground game, and overall resilience. Having learned from his own ups and downs, Brandon emphasizes not overlooking any opponent, especially someone driven to bounce back. He points out that Steve might not feel he got fair shakes in recent fights and will aim to make a statement. Brandon also credits his own experience for helping him stay calm under pressure, a skill he feels he's only recently been able to leverage fully. Victory here could position Brandon for another run at the title, but he refuses to look past the immediate challenge. Heading into his fight against Brandon Moreno, Steve Erceg admits he's both excited and nervous. He describes it as a dream fight against a highly respected opponent, but also acknowledges the immense challenge ahead. Steve mentions he has no rigid strategy in place, preferring to adapt on the fly. Whether it becomes a 25-minute wrestling clinic or a high-octane stand-up war, Steve feels confident he can handle either scenario. He jokes that he might end up laying and praying if that's what it takes to secure the win, but also envisions a slugfest if Brandon invites a brawl. The implications for Steve's standing in the division could be huge. A win over a name like Brandon Moreno might fast-track his climb. Above all, Steve sees the significance in facing top-tier talent, aiming to look back one day and see a career filled with battles against elite opponents. Brendan Schaub has been away from the Octagon since his TKO loss to Travis Brown and says it would take a hefty paycheck to entice him back. Specifically, he cites $5 million as the figure that would make a return worthwhile. Brendan explains that not only does he need time to get into fight shape, but he'd also have to discontinue any supplements or substances that wouldn't pass anti-doping rules. A year of preparation, he says, would be essential to ensure he could compete at a high level without risking his health. While he acknowledges the potential concern of brain trauma and CTE, the money would need to be worth that risk. However, promoters might hesitate at such a high asking price, making this scenario unlikely. For now, Brendan seems content discussing the sport from the outside rather than stepping back in. Despite a mixed run at middleweight, Kelvin Gastelum remains confident he can capture the UFC title. He recalls nearly facing Dricus Du Plessis on short notice, only for a knee injury to pull him out. Kelvin believes Dricus has huge holes in his game, but credits his relentless cardio and pressure as dangerous weapons. Fighters like Khamzat Chimaev and Merab Dvalishvili also utilize that suffocating style, aiming to bully opponents and break their will. Kelvin approached the UFC brass asking for the toughest route possible back to contention, wanting to re-establish himself among the division's elite. He acknowledges that climbing the ladder anew might be necessary, viewing it as a fresh start at 185 pounds. If he can string together a few impressive wins, Kelvin sees no reason he can't stand across from a champion again, this time with better preparation and a fully healed body. Drew Dober faces a pivotal match against Manuel Torres and expects nothing but a striking showcase. Having won only one of his last 4 outings, Drew feels the pressure to perform is at an all-time high. He recalls a TKO loss to Gene Silva that ended due to a doctor stoppage, which tested his resilience and mindset. Now, at 36 years old, Drew says he blocks out negative thoughts by pushing himself to the brink during training, using physical exhaustion to quiet any doubts. He believes Manuel Torres has a style similar to Drew's past approach, aggressive, raw, and always entertaining. By focusing on his own evolution, Drew feels he holds a technical edge. If all goes well, he plans to fight multiple times this year to regain momentum. With both men known for fireworks, fans can expect a potential fight of the night. A Bullet has made it clear he hopes Dricus Du Plessis loses his middleweight title, favoring a future showdown where Khamzat Chimaev dethrones him. He points to Dricus' pressure and aggression, but suggests luck may be a factor in how he captured gold. Meanwhile, Jorge Masvidal is eager to return to the UFC after 4 consecutive losses, eyeing a long-time grudge match with Leon Edwards. Their backstage altercation years ago still lingers in fan memory, creating a built-in storyline. Jorge argues that a win over Leon would justify a shot at the welterweight belt, confident he can outstrike and outlast him over 5 rounds. He also downplays Leon's grappling threat, calling him fragile. Whether this fight happens depends on the UFC, but it's a matchup that could settle bad blood once and for all while answering questions about Jorge's current level. Thank you for watching. We appreciate your support and hope to have you back for our next round of MMA updates.